Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome. This is the Newcastle City Council special session. Today is March 5th, and the time is 6 o'clock. We're convening a special session to discuss the topic of public safety. Please note that all council members are present here. My name is Mayor Clark. This meeting is being broadcast on our YouTube channel, and it is also being recorded, so you may watch it sometime in the future as well. We do have some people watching on Zoom as well. We're going to discuss the topic of public safety. So I'd like to make a comment or two before we start. I'm going to kind of digress a little bit and give you a little bit of a story. I work in the steel mill in West Seattle, and I've been there for 25 years. And when I started in 1999, we had 26 recordable injuries. What that means is that those are serious injuries, in other words, beyond a first aid, where people needed significant medical help. We thought we were world-class safety. We thought that because other steel mills were worse. 2 years ago, we reached 0 injuries. We never thought we would do it, but we did. We decided in 1999, and in every year since then, that we were going to achieve excellence in safety, that there wasn't going to be anybody that went home unsafe, that all those 26 people, they didn't think it was safe, and that nobody should have that feeling that it was unsafe. So that leads me directly to tonight's meeting. We as a community should feel that public safety in our community is world class. We shouldn't have anybody like those 26 people who are victims of crime or who might feel unsafe. We want everybody to feel safe. Now, there are surveys that say this community is really safe, and compared to other cities, we do a good job. But we can do better. And one of the reasons that we wanted to have this meeting is to get all the stakeholders in the room together, the police, the community, the council, and others, to discuss how we go from where we are today to how we get to that excellence in public safety, because it can happen. We never would have thought we would have got to 0, but we did. So we have a lot of good things going in our city. We have a lot of good people working on public safety, but we can do better because we can always do better. So the reason we want to meet tonight, again, like I said, is to get all the stakeholders together and discuss how we're going to do that. So out of tonight's meeting, we're going to hear from our police chief. He's going to give us a current status of our public safety. We're going to hear from a couple council members, and we want to hear from you, the public. There'll be plenty of time for all that to happen. There are some handouts over on the table, some sign-up sheets, which we'll talk about as we go along. If we do not conclude, this is scheduled for an hour, but if we do not conclude by 7 o'clock, we'll stop shortly before that to resume our regular, normal council meeting. It'll take us about 15 minutes to go through our routine business, and then we'll resume this subject in our regular meeting. So if you're here, you will get a chance to speak or talk if you want to say something tonight, so please don't worry about that. So with that, I will ask Councilmember Tallman to say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. So I have quite a few notes. I'm going to refer to mine regularly here as I speak. Out of 14,000 residents, you are here. So for whatever your concern for interest in public safety is, thank you for being here. We genuinely appreciate it. Why are we here tonight? Most residents and businesses believe that we have some level of crime or public safety issue that could definitely improve. Public safety is the #1 concern of our residents. Just last Thursday, I met a mom who works at the shopping center in downtown, and she mentioned how she sees a lot of activity happening in the parking lot. And she's so concerned that she won't let her teenage daughter walk 1 mile from their home to the shopping center because she's concerned about her safety. That condition should be unacceptable to all of us. We're here tonight to proactively create common sense ways to better secure our community from increased criminal activity, enhance the feeling of safety in our homes and neighborhoods and businesses, and to establish an environment that strongly discourages criminals from targeting any area of Newcastle. And we'll talk about the various areas that we'll concentrate on, which is virtually everything. But the health and welfare of this community begins with the individual. We have 10 police officers. We have a prosecutor who's very aggressive, and we have a judge who's very aggressive on crime. This group cannot protect us. They can't be everywhere all the time, but we can be. So one of the most important messages tonight is if you see something, gather as many details as possible and report it. If you see it, report it. Unreported crimes can do more damage to the community than the crime itself because you are telling the perp they can get away with it and they will return for more of the same or worse. This can only work with this commitment and engagement from the community. And this higher level of communication is our responsibility if we want a safer Newcastle. Same principle for retail theft. Safeway, QFC, AM/PM, Bartels, they deal with theft every single day. It's very stressful for the employees and it's very stressful for the patrons. The losses are called shrink and the prices go up and that affects all of us. Please encourage your retailers to report every retail theft so that you can have a safer place to shop. Looking the other way simply invites the thief to return and repeat the behavior. But next time it might be with a gun to get money or to break into your car or even steal your car or to go to your neighborhood or apartment complex while they are in the area. They will come back if we do nothing, if they do not report the theft. And it will become more costly, more dangerous for all of us. The key message here is hope for the best while we prepare for the worst. Chief Kajihiro, if you're prepared, then Chief is going to talk a little bit about public safety in Newcastle and how his team supports the community. Thank you.
This is last year's crime stats and a summary of what Newcastle PD did throughout the year. All of this data came from basically our crime analysis unit and our sector program. Next. Okay, there's three categories. It's crime against persons, crime against property, and crime against society. So I'm going to lump in like burglaries. It's going to be both commercial and residential together. I'm going to highlight like auto thefts because that's one of our biggest problems in the city. Next. Okay, crime against property. As you can see, in 2001 is 345 cases. 22 was 424 and went slightly up in 23 at 449. Crimes against persons went down from last year from 60 to 53. However, in 2021, it was 39. Crimes against society kind of went back down from 5 to 2, same like 2001. Next slide. Okay, first one is assault. That's both aggravated assault, like felonies, and simple assaults, like, and this can include domestic violence and things like that. Went from 19 in 2021 to 31 in 2022, and it's down to 22 in 23. As you can see, auto theft, it's both auto theft and attempts. It went from 40 a couple years ago to 2022 went up to 61. And then last year went all the way up to 84. 41 of the 84 was Hyundai and Kias stolen. Next is burglary, commercial burglaries and residential. As you can see, it dropped from 53 to 48 last year. And we had 35 in 2021. And robberies went from 1 to 5 in 2022 and 8 in 2023. I just want to note a couple things about this stats. For auto thefts, we had one in August 19th, 2023, and one in December. We charged two juveniles for those. Possession of stolen vehicles. We had residential burglaries. One was November 16th, 2023, and the other one occurred on November 24. In conjunction with other agencies, we were able to forward charges for those that committed those crimes. For carjacking and robbery, which happened in November, 2 suspects was arrested and 2 of them were charged, arrested and charged. And Corey, you said the third one is? Pending, okay. And let me go into this. This year, we had 2 commercial burglaries, one in January and February. The suspects basically was identified and we forwarded it to prosecutor. One case was declined for felony prosecution but referred to municipal court for filing. And I believe one of those was the Shell station, right? Yeah, a truck drove into the Shell station, and we were able to identify and charge them. So, then I think, we had mail theft. I think I'm going to go into that. We did a mail theft operation, and we had 1 suspect charged with that from that operation. But we'll go into a little bit more on that on the later slides. Next. Okay, this is a comparison on especially auto theft because that's the biggest rise in crime for Bellevue and Renton. As you can see, Bellevue, the vehicle thefts in 2022 went from 499 to 736. With Renton went from 1415 to 1952. So it's a rise in auto thefts similar to here in Newcastle. Next. Okay, our crime analysis person, Jamie, found this information. We are 4th highest in the nation for auto thefts. As you can see right there on the chart, it was compiled by the National Insurance Crime Bureau. Next slide. Okay, larcenies, specific larcenies. Shoplifting went from 7 in 2021, 1 in 2022, and 17 in 2023. Part of the rise in this year is we started doing partnerships with the retailers like Bartell's, Safeway, and QFC, and we did shoplift emphasis. We did 3 of them. Out of the 17, 10 was generated by us. So, and loss prevention. So that was, so we had 17, 10, like I said, came out of the shoplift emphasis. Auto parts, basically stealing like catalytic converters and stuff like that. Went from 31 in 2021, then 2022 went up to 44 and back down to 31 last year. So taken from auto, that means theft from auto, breaking in the car, stealing something from the car. 2021 was 114, and as you can see, it went dropped down to 77, and now it's down to 56 as last year. Next slide. Okay, what happened to these cases? We had 50 in 2021, 71, and last year was 66 arrests. Next. Okay, traffic collisions. Last year we gave 834 citations. The year before that was 867 and 632 the year before that. Part of the reason it went from 867 to 834, our traffic car was assigned to unincorporated King County for a period of time as a provisional sergeant, so we didn't have a traffic car. Collisions, as you can see, it's pretty much even every year for the total collisions from 56, 62, and 60 last year. Injury collisions went from 12 the previous years to 24 last year. Next. Okay. Dispatch calls for service, significant increases. Well, not really. It's just maybe 100 or so. Went from 1854, jump up to 1905, and then 1925 for dispatch calls for service. And that's not unusual because the population is increasing, so calls for service is going to increase, and crime will increase with that too. So next. That's the heat map. A lot of the crime And the red would be the apartment complexes or right there in the center of the city. Newcastle Way and Coal Creek and those apartments surrounding that. Thanks. Okay, what did we do last year? The week after Thanksgiving, we did a U.S. Postal Inspector package theft operation. Placed 6 packages with trackers around the city for the whole week. This resulted in 1 adult female being arrested for theft in the 3rd degree. We also discovered the same individual was involved in another theft in the city. Next slide. Okay, like I said earlier, we partnered with Loss Prevention and we conducted 3 shoplift emphasis, which resulted in 10 arrests. I just want to note here, when we conduct these emphasis, it costs the city money to do that because I backfill in overtime and I bring in at least 5 officers on overtime to conduct each one of these emphasis. So next. Okay, so I do, because there's commercial burglaries and there's auto thefts at night, I periodically, and Jamie, our crime analysis, will come up after this and kind of explain what we've been doing, is I increase patrol staffing on Graveyard and have them patrol the hot spots in the city. Next. Okay, crime prevention, things that we've been doing. Been doing neighborhood block watch, trying to get that up and running again. We newly created business watch. And we have a meeting, I believe, is it on the 26th? It'll be March 26th. It would be at 3 o'clock at the Coleman. We just actually announced it today. We are getting flock cameras. Flock cameras is automated license plate readers that will be posted around the city. I won't tell people where it's at, but it'll be around the city. So it'll help our investigators get license plates if we can. So it'll identify cars if they do commit crimes. Last year I partnered with Project Be Free to help us with DV services. So what they do is they'll come out, if we call them, they'll come out to the scene and counsel the victims or even the suspects involved and help with DV protection orders. What we've been doing also, we'll do retail theft meetings with loss prevention and surrounding agencies. Next. Okay, also, we conducted crime prevention meetings at the apartment complexes. It's whoever would want one, will go out there and do it. So we did Avalon Walker's Run, property management at Shops at Newcastle and the Notch Apartments. We handed out steering wheel locks. The locks are provided free from Honda and Kia, and we've been trying to get it out to the public. So what we did was, since nobody was really coming to City Hall to pick it up, we went and handed out the steering wheel locks at some apartment complexes. So we tried to go to them to get it out there. Next is the CEPTEC, Crime Prevention through Environmental Design. Started conducting or offering that. We got the Notch Apartment so far, Shops at Newcastle, and a residential property that we did. And then MPO Treadway also conduct the CRACE training, civilian response to active shooter events. And I guess a total of, we did, was that 79 people and 192 outside of Newcastle that were trained in this. Thanks. Also crime prevention, we have child seat fittings and safety. We did 23 car seat checks. Our traffic officer, MPO Treadway, conducted those. We also obtained traffic safety grants that totaled a little over $8,000 to help purchase equipment and for training and reimburse overtime for traffic. We also partnered with, or we partnered with Newcastle Library with their management and their trespass policy. So they have given us the authority to trespass if needed on their behalf. Next. Community events and partnerships. What we did was Newcastle PD partnered with Port of Seattle, Renton PD, Hawaiian Airlines, Auburn, Seattle PD, and other community partners to ship over 17,000 pounds to Maui PD and the community. We did supplies from flashlights, clothing, food. So we did 17,000 pounds last fall. We partnered with Renton PD for the Renton Youth Academy, so that's new to us, newly formed partnership. We also attended the Newcastle Elementary auction, and which Breakfast with the Chief was raised over $1,000 for the PTA. Next. Okay, so these are other events that we went to. The Spring Fling, Cub Scout meeting, Coffee with the Chief. One new thing that we did was we partnered with Renton PD and also at unincorporated King County for Coffee with a Cop. We helped with the Easter egg hunt at Lake Bourne Park, Newcastle Days, and 4th of July fireworks. Next. Also, continue on all the events that we've been to is Tolly Ventrella Softball Classic, Hazelwood Elementary School Field Day, Hazelwood Elementary School National Walk to School event. We participated in Risden and Hazelwood lockdown fire drills. We also had breakfast with the citizens at Regents Newcastle, and we made a showing at the Veterans Day at City Hall. Next. Okay, another thing we did, this is new, is we had a Faith in Blue event at Bektikfa Church. This is a national initiative to connect and build stronger communities and faith-based communities together. I was invited to the grand opening of Eden Church. I made a showing there. Also, Bradigan Foundation, we partnered with them, and they provided us with a toy box to provide to kids if their parents or something involving crime and they come to the city. We able to give them, we have formula, we have clothing, blankets, stuffed animals. Next. Diaper Drive. We also did a diaper drive with Sound Transit and Port of Seattle. And we collected those donations and was shipped to Maui by Hawaiian Airlines. We also adopted a family for the holidays. We partnered with, again with Port of Seattle, and we adopted a family, and we collected gifts and sent them to the family that was affected in the fires in Maui. And one of the last things is Battle of the Badges. We did a collaboration with Newcastle citizens, the Newcastle Cub Scout troop, and Regency at Newcastle, which led us to winning the Holiday Spirit Award. Next. Okay, awards. I'm almost done, another half an hour. You think I'm joking, I'm not. Awards and nominations. Detective Corey Martin, we just started a Officer of the Quarter just to reward and motivate our officers to do good work. Detective Corey Martin won the 4th quarter Officer of the Year, and he's the first one that received it. MPO Treadway also got the 7th highest award in King County Sheriff's Office, the Meritorious Service Award last year. 3 of us from Newcastle was nominated for of the year, Detective of the Year, Officer of the Year, or I guess Supervisor of the Year. So that was Detective Corey Martin, Matt Treadway, and myself. Next. We was also featured in the King County Sheriff's Office video, which was, I guess it's for all of employees for King County Sheriff's Office and King County as a whole. Next. What's next for this year is vehicle theft emphasis. We enlisted the help of our crime analysis, who created a special dashboard, and we are targeting, I guess would be hotspots on a more data-driven way. So he's going to come up here and explain it. I'm going to call him up after this. Next. Also, I was approached by Renton Police Department to collaborate on a Explorer program. So I'm looking into creating the Police Explorer program. So the first year, King County is going to help fund that. After that, it's on us. But anyway, this is for kids the ages of 14 to 21 years old, and it'll help give them education in law enforcement, leadership, and you know, they've been great helping us at Newcastle Days and for I guess 4th of July fireworks. They've been there. So I think those were Maple Valley and Burien Explorers that came. So that's one of the programs we're gonna try and implement this year. Next. Okay, Sundays with a Cop. So we're gonna do Sundays with a Cop on March 10th, 7th, and May 5th from noon to 1 at Frosty Barrel. It's kind of like coffee with a cop, but it's going to be ice cream with a cop, because we want to include the kids, not just parents during the day to have coffee. So we want kids to come so they can interact with us. And we, 3 months is just a start, but I think we may continue that through the hotter summer months. Next. Okay, that's it. Jamie, you want to come up and give them a talk on more of the crime trends of the area?
Okay. I'll take up the rest of the 30 minutes, don't you worry.
Yeah.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Jamie Arregueta. I'm one of the crime analysts from King County Sheriff's Office. So a little bit of what the chief has explained is that starting February, we have done a patrol emphasis. Now, studies dating back to the 1980s have found out that crime concentrates within very small selected parts of the city. So when you kind of look at a map and you plot it all out and you really look at the concentration, it's like 5% of the city. And when you kind of start teasing out where that crime really concentrates, you can figure out, okay, between these select hours, between, you know, 5th Avenue and 4th Avenue, crime is going to occur within these areas. So based off of those studies and using an evidence-based approach, based off of other studies as well, saying, hey, 15 minutes is really what we need to deter criminals from seeing opportunities within these areas. Because what we're trying to do is provide a guardian to protect the target from a motivated offender. So I have asked the chief to help gather some officers and put them in select areas throughout the city between midnight and 6 a.m. And they're on kind of like a randomized schedule where it's randomly picked for what areas based off of the worst areas in Newcastle and having them patrol that area. So as of right now, we've seen some promising results. We've seen a decrease. However, it is too early to tell, being that it's only 1 month in. And so far, we're planning to take this out for 3 months, see how it goes, see how the officers are reacting, and seeing how the cost of service as well as the offenses are increasing, decreasing, or staying steady. Another topic that I also wanted to talk about is that unfortunately, we may not see too much results because generally around King County, there has been an increase in, as the chief has explained, auto thefts, thefts from auto, larcenies, and burglaries. So while I am hopeful, I just want to steady expectations on what we may see. But given at the end of the 3-month trial, we'll assess and figure out what next steps to do. And is there anything else that you would like me to talk about?
It's up to you, man. If you want to talk about crime trends in the area in general,
Yeah, so around King County, as I've stated before, is that auto thefts, that's from autos, larcenies, and everything else has been increasing since 2020. Really, that kind of COVID era really messed kind of our cost of service and offenses up. And since then, what we have seen is more of an increase in boldness and offenders throughout King County. While that is not to say that in 2023 we've actually seen a decrease, we have yet to see any kind of slowdown in the increases in calls for service as well as offenses. Particularly to Newcastle. Newcastle has seen an increase in a couple of their offenses since 2020 and 2022. However, I'm hopeful in that it's been decreasing given 2023 year stats in comparison to 2022. We've seen a couple decreases in, I want to say, larcenies as well as assaults and burglaries as well. So that's all. If you have any questions, I'm available to hopefully answer them.
Thank you, Jamie. Yep. Any council members have questions for Jamie or the chief?
I have some questions.
Go right ahead.
Chief Kajihiro? So just for everyone's knowledge, if you haven't looked on our website, the chief and Newcastle Police has a police information, general information sheet. On that information, there's a lot of good details about how we can protect ourselves and how to interact with the police, how to make reports. Other than calling in 911, you can actually file a report online. It's great information. One of the things that you mentioned in here is it's a good idea for residents to record their serial numbers in case of theft of whatever merchandise. Do we communicate with pawn shops or other types of places that can resell these so that if something shows up there, then it highlights and you hear about it? Or how does that work? Or what's the benefit of using serial
I'm
numbers?
gonna call up my detective, because he's
Okay.
the expert in that, and he can talk about that a little bit more.
Okay.
Good evening, Corey Martin, Detective Newcastle PD. To answer that question specifically, yes, every second-hand retailer is required by law to photograph and then document into a centralized database any information with the serial number. That information is searchable in a database by any law enforcement that has access to it.
I'm good with that, thank you. Another question for Chief. So over on the table, for everyone's benefit, there's a handout called How to Be a Witness. Remember that in order for the police department to make a case stick, sometimes they have to have witnesses or testimony from a witness. And so this is good information that the police department has provided that kind of teaches us how to be a good witness and not be a victim. On there also is when and who do you call? When do you call the police? How do you know when to call the police? Do you have comments about that, Chief, to guide people on when they should call for 911 or call for assistance?
I would say when in doubt, call 911 or non-emergency. Just if you feel that you need to call 911, call 911.
Oh, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, calls for service increased from 2022 to 2003 by 1%. One of our goals is to get the community to be more proactive and report thefts, report violence that they might see. Some of us, all of us maybe have seen things or had mail stolen or things stolen off our property and we don't call. We should call. We should have these things recorded so that we have a very aggressive prosecutor and a very aggressive judge, and they will prosecute for theft. And we can help our police department by helping being their eyes.
It's important to report it, whether you just go online and say, hey, I don't want to, some people don't want to prosecute. If it's reported online, it gives us and our crime analysis to know that things are happening. If it's not reported, in our eyes, it's not going on. So it's better to report it so we know what's going on. I would rather have a spike on the crime stats so we can accurately adjust resources to that to take care of it.
Thank you. Another question. Also on this table is a little sheet called Eliminate the Opportunity. And a lot of theft in Newcastle is about opportunity. We're just leaving ourselves open, leaving our cars unlocked, leaving things on the seat, leaving things out in the yard, whatever. But there's good information about how we can protect ourselves in the community. Chief, yesterday Initiative 2113 passed in Olympia, and it'll be going into effect in 90 days. And this lift the restrictions on police pursuit for reasonable suspicion of any crime. How does that change your method of operation, and how do you expect that to affect the levels of crime that we have in Newcastle?
Given with the sheriff's office, I can't say that right now because I don't know what sheriff's office policy will be. Because sheriff's office policy is typically a little bit more strict than the actual law. But it's promising that we could at least chase criminals again, you know?
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Chief, I got a question for you.
I'll just stay here.
Yeah, thank you. Kind of a little bit what Councilmember Tallman asked. There was a stat or a chart, calls for service, right? One of the things that we hear in the community in kind of in a random nature is that I called the police and nobody came, right? Can you now, to be clear, Councilmember Tallman and I, we separately went on ride-alongs, and we can be assured that if the police get a call, they're gonna go, right? So there's a problem, or there's a disconnect between somebody called and said, hey, this, and then, nothing happens. Can you fill in the blank? Like, what is the background there?
Yeah, so when somebody calls 911, the call taker from King County Communication Center takes the call. And we had one recently, it was a brand new call taker, and that call taker dropped the ball and didn't send somebody because the person had walked away. And when I contacted the supervisors is going to address that because it's a training issue. They should have sent somebody out, but we didn't get dispatched. So if we know about it, we're going to come. So, but we got to know about it first.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Does anybody else, while the chief is up and from the council, have a question for the chief? Okay, thank you, Chief. I want to add a little bit of information for the public's knowledge around our law enforcement. So you heard the chief mention King County Sheriff's Office. We have 10 officers in Newcastle, and they wear Newcastle uniforms and drive Newcastle police cars, but we contract with King County Sheriff's Office. So they provide us the officers, and we pay the fee to King County, $255,000 a year per officer, times 10. We're actually budgeted for 12 officers, which means we pay for 12 officers, and if we don't get them because of manning purposes, we get the refund for the officers. So during and after COVID, a lot of officers left the force for a variety of reasons. So King County, which supplies officers to a number of cities and their own unincorporated areas, they don't have the manpower to give us those extra 2 officers, which is unfortunate, right? Because we as a council, we want to do that. We budgeted for it. We want that. So that puts a little more strain on our officers, but the chief is working, as you heard, to change shifts and move officers around as he can. So I want to make that clear. As people say, well, how do we get more officers? Is we want more officers, but they're not available to come to us right now. So that's the reason for that. We have any crime that's a gross misdemeanor or below is prosecuted locally. So we have a local prosecutor that we pay for, or we hire from the city. So we met with her, myself and Councilmember Tallman, and she is awesome. And to quote her, she said, I will prosecute a stolen bag of chips. So she's raring to go. So if a call goes through to the officers and the officers come and we get the right information, she's going to go after it. And we can be assured that these crimes, these level of crimes will be taken care of. And we have a judge. Now the judge, Mercer Island Court, they had a problem with asbestos in their building, so the judge is now using this courtroom, or this council chambers, as a courtroom. He's upstairs on the 3rd floor. We also met with him, and he also wants to take care of these crimes. So we have all the tools in place. We just need to connect the dots. And that's one of the goals tonight, is to figure out how we can do that, so that when you think you report, there's a crime taking place, you feel that you've been heard and somebody's coming to take care of you. Because if all the information is there, it's going to get taken care of and prosecuted. Anything above a gross misdemeanor goes to King County, and that's a little more of a, random thing. You saw the number of tickets there on the chief's slide, that we have the most aggressive traffic enforcement according to our prosecutor in the area, right? And that's thanks to Officer Treadway and the chief for making that an emphasis, or keeping our streets safe. Okay, so you may not like getting a ticket if you're a ticket recipient, but that is a good thing for our city. The chief mentioned license plate readers. He also, something he didn't mention, and we're still in progress of looking at, is a reserve officer program. And what that means is that we're looking at maybe retired law enforcement people to come back and work maybe part-time for the city, but that's still in an infancy. We're looking at that. A question might come up about homelessness, right? You know, our city, and if the chief wants to add more, he can, but homeless people are generally congregated in areas where there's free services. Newcastle doesn't have free services. So we may see homeless people occasionally, and we may start to see more, I don't know. But generally, they're going to congregate into cities and areas where they can get stuff for free without having to travel very far. But considering that we may have an issue, right, we've created, and the chief has worked on this, and we've worked it through our city attorney, operating procedure and what to do with homeless encampments. So we have a very good vetted legal policy what to do if we have, encounters with homeless and they have an encampment in our city. So I want you to be aware that we are addressing that problem. And of course, the Supreme Court has agreed to review some of these cases where, let's say, the homeless can sleep anywhere. And we don't know how that'll turn out. So at this point, excuse me, we would like to hear from anybody in the public who would like to comment. So the way I'd like to do this, and again, if we have to stop and continue later, we will. So please, if you want to say something, we will have an opportunity, is to come on up to the podium if you'd like to talk. We're going to give you 2 minutes. In traditional public comment, in our regular meeting, we only take comment, but in this case, we're going to allow questions. So if you have a comment you'd like to make, that's great, but if you have a question, we want to hear what that question is so we can address it, either us or the chief or the detective or somebody, okay? So we don't have a sign-up sheet. If you just want to come to the podium and say something or talk about this topic, just raise your hand, come on up. Okay, Charlie, I see your hand first. Please identify yourself when you come up and just tell us what's on your mind.
Excuse me, I'm Charlie Gadzik, live in Newcastle. I'm also chair of the Planning Commission. And I have a question for the chief because right now the Planning Commission is working on revising Newcastle's comprehensive plan, which is how we direct the use of our land over the next 20 years. And housing density is a question. I heard the chief refer to hotspots in the apartments. And my question for the chief is, are those hotspots because of the population concentration, or is there something about apartments that makes them more crime prone on a per capita basis? Like if you spread all those people out, would they still be hotspots?
Thank you for the question. That's honestly a very good question that a lot of people tend to ask. So when it comes to a density basis, of course, there's going to be a natural increase in calls for service and offenses and so forth. But what we've generally seen is that some apartments are more criminogenic than others. And there's a variety of theories, most of which some people ascribe to as management. Is that management is usually a problem that's allowing offenders to take advantage of opportunities at these places. And when you plot these on a bell curve, what you're really going to see is just 20% of places unilaterally across, and this even goes like from country to country. It's really fascinating. Sorry, getting off topic. But 20% of the places inflict 80% of the offenses. So to answer your question, yes, it is. Well, it's not generally just an apartment issue, it's a place issue. And it's who's in charge of that place, and in addition, who's at that place that is taking advantage of the opportunities present. And thus the question turns into, what are the opportunities that they're taking advantage of? Who are the targets or victims? And who are the offenders that are there? Does that answer your question, sir? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, and who else? Would anybody else would like to comment or ask a question? Wow. Nobody. Okay, I see. Dala, come on.
Hi, I'm Donna from My Post, and my house literally sit, my backyard is right next to Coal Creek Parkway. So I think a lot of people agree with me that there are a lot of speeding, especially at night, reckless driving, very annoying. So I kind of wanted to hear from the chief of what have we done or what are we planning to do to minimize those? Thank you.
Well, just to answer your question, been out there doing citations. As you can see, we, like the mayor said, the most aggressive in the area. Our traffic car is down there, and he comes in on overtime also trying to address the problem on Coal Creek. So a lot of times, yes, so the officers are out there doing traffic if they, yeah.
Did I see another hand at all? Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Good evening. My name's Ron Chatterton. I live in Olympus for the last 25 years. I have a question. You see on TV people walking into stores and just walking out with all sorts of stuff. If I go into Bartell's, load up a basket, walk out to my car, is anything going to happen? I mean, what happens if somebody just, because you can take up to $1,000 or something. So I'm just wondering what happens if you go in, load up, and walk out. Do people get arrested for that anymore? That's my question.
Chief, you might as well just stay up at the front.
To answer your question, yes, but loss prevention has their policies, right? Some can go hands-on, some can't. So it just depends on their policy. And if they call us and we can build probable cause, of course, they're gonna get arrested. But a lot of times, the retailers can't go hands-on. So they just walk up to their car. So, but if we're in the area, they call 911 and we can catch them and they're willing to prosecute, then we can do something about it.
What about the dollar amount that he asked about, Chief? Is there like, so he steals $50 or what?
It doesn't matter. But it also goes down to the retailers. So the retailers need to call and willing to prosecute. So they can steal $1,000 or $5. We still need somebody to say they want to assist with prosecution.
Okay, go ahead.
And is this why you've implemented the shoplifting program? Because I know we've spoke about that, and I heard. I'll let you speak to it. But
Yeah. So the reason I implemented the shoplift emphasis in the city is because I feel that people who do other crimes in the city are also going to shoplift because they got to eat, right? So I figure if we can take them to jail that way, can prevent them from doing other crimes in the city. I think one of the persons we arrested had a record for auto theft. So clearly, probably could have broken into a car. We don't know, but yes, that's why I implemented that, because I feel that we can prevent other crimes.
I'd just like to have further clarification. So if someone walks into Safeway and they walk out with $50 worth of merchandise, they stole that merchandise from Safeway. So whether they're inside the store or out in the parking lot with stolen merchandise, that's still up to Safeway to prosecute or to call you and say, we want support.
Yes.
Okay.
So they basically have to pass open and working cash registers and out the door. So if they're still in the store, it's not a crime yet until they actually get outside.
Okay.
And Safeway has to, or say QFC or whoever, whatever store it is, it's just like your house. Somebody breaks in your house, you have to say, I want to assist with prosecution.
Right. Okay, so what about the parking lot, though? Is that private property? Can you patrol the parking lot and look for or watch for crimes or respond to crimes in the parking lot, like
Yeah, we can,
theft or?
we can patrol the parking lot and
Okay.
do all that, yes.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right, I think that helps clarify
Mhm.
what the boundaries are a little bit. Thank you.
Go ahead. Okay, yeah, I see that, there's some Zoom. I'm going to see if there's anybody else in the audience right now who would like to say something or talk. City Clerk, can we get the person on, do I see a hand? What? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand. Go ahead, come on up.
Few questions.
Oh, we've got two people. All right.
Thank you for having this. But a question that kind of follows on from the shoplifting is, do they actually have to detain the person? Or if the person gets in the car, drives away, and maybe you got the license plate, maybe you didn't. Is there anything, say they got the license plate, would you actually go after them?
Sir, could you state your name for the?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Donald Stimson.
Donald? Thank you,
from
Donald.
Highlands
Okay.
Development.
If they are willing to assist with prosecution and we have enough leads, our detective will investigate that. And that was one of the, I guess, the purposes why we want license plate readers also, because there's a lot of crimes that happen in the city where we get a vehicle, but we don't have a license plate or anything like that. So if we do have that, then we a little bit more leads for us to look into and hopefully arrest them.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to say was, as a comment, was although this is on public safety and you're talking about having a committee on public safety, it's obviously more than that. It's also it's crime in general. So it might be nice to clarify that somehow. And then some comments on where the individuals who are committing the crimes, are we finding that they're mainly not Newcastle residents, or are they Newcastle residents? Do they see this as a target of opportunity here for some reason rather than another area? So that's one question I have. And then another is that it seems that maybe residential property crime has actually gone down a little bit, but commercial has gone up. And heard and seen the results of the latest trend seems to be to drive a car through the front door, and that not only go in and do the crime, but you've got a bunch of property damage as well that has to be dealt with. And I was curious as to how that's being addressed. In the areas that it's been evident in a lot of reports, and you've made that clear too, that it's very small portions of the city that really see the big concentrations. So it's nice to concentrate on those, but now is it going to be a little bit of whack-a-mole? Are they then going to spread out from there? What's the result of that? And then finally on public safety, the speeding, and there have been plenty of collisions, and there have been some accidents with personnel fatalities or injuries. Renton seems to have stepped up just in the last couple of weeks. We're seeing patrols on Union and on the continuation of Coal Creek, where they're clocking people at anywhere from 55 to 70 miles an hour. We see that on Coal Creek, but I haven't seen the emphasis there.
Chief, could you answer that questions for him? Or where are the criminals coming from, and, do we know?
I would say it's a mixture of both, but because our mail theft operation, it was a Newcastle resident that was doing that. So it can be a mixture of both, but I would say a majority of it are people coming into the city, passing through. And it's crime of opportunity, and they coming in and doing that. It's hard to say until we catch them,
Sure.
so we know for sure. Forgot what was the other question he had.
Well, he just said Renton has emphasis on the speeding patrols, but, you know, again, you kind of addressed that to a previous caller, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, it's 5 minutes to 7. Our regular meeting starts at 7. So at this point, what I'm going to do is we're going to stop, and we'll resume at 7 o'clock for our regular meeting. And as I mentioned, and some of you may have come in late, we are going to continue this topic in the regular meeting. So we'll start our regular meeting. We have some routine business that'll take about 15 minutes at the most, and then we will resume this topic. So if you have a question and you didn't get to ask it, and I know we have a hand raised in Zoom, we will get to everybody, I promise you that. So thank you. I know you want to answer a question, or if you have a question, please stick around. It won't take long to go through our routine business, and then we will resume this topic. So at this point, we're going to take a brief recess for 4 minutes till 7 o'clock. Thank you.
I don't. But it's real. I was like, thank you. And that was the end of it. That was it. We had a moment. What if comes out of it after somebody else? If you have a house before around it, just you can rent it out before. Wouldn't that mean that when that starts to based on that?
I'm not familiar with that.
That was the same issue as Jim.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. So you said that somebody can sublease their house?
Basically, you can rent out this bedroom in your house, but to somebody else. Single family housing. If I have 4 bedrooms, I don't even have to live in it. I can rent each bedroom, so that's different.
Yes, so.
Yeah. Yes. I don't have a comment on that.
No, so a lot of we've done a lot of these work studies back. Association of Patriots. We try to keep it from task coming in on this. Generally, I don't think, you know, if you say that you want to go to QRC, around everything else, and it's similar to House Bill 11, with safe last year, next year, where they somebody's going to buy up the house and tear it down and put a quadruplex on it. So, because we're able to obviously increase the amount of people that are going to be in the area, and then what's cool is that they're going to get by, like this guy French mentioned about apartment complexes, you know, if they want to live somewhere outside the country, which happens quite a few times, they're not going to be cheaper. They just want to make the money come in. Yeah, exactly. So it was a good perspective, like, hey, let's get it about an hour here, and then if you pay for 15 minutes, your friend was like, okay, I've got all day.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go home, I'm going to do whatever, you know, I'm just going to try another day. And that's why you have to keep in that spot. Again, that way, so then back another time, you're like,
So it
come back, it's like, well, like, I'm still there.
that's
I think probably that's why we're not getting women this year. She's flying super under the radar. I like went on a whole mic trail after that.
So that's a little bit more complex issue. So that,
Ma'am, I cannot go down
yeah,
this.
there's some studies.
She's like, I cannot go down this road. I'm like, sorry, I'll stop talking about it now. I know, I was like, now I want to know. I was like, how do you find out? Like, I don't know, and I can't go down this road. Like, okay, I'm sorry.
So, yes, if you were engaged in a friendly meeting, if the house is rented out, the net is 16 people instead of 4 people. You know, and they have people listening, and once we kind of produce some individuals
I was like, no, that's why I was like, that's.
At all, but.
Now it's 4 times more likely.
Oh, yeah. I love it. I'm not gonna be like, come over here.
That's why we don't have an Airbnb, because we work that somebody was. And so usually it's fine. Somebody has to.
Let me, I'm gonna give you.
Everybody, please take your seats. We're going to get started with our regular meeting. Hello, everybody. We're going to start our regular meeting. Everybody, please take your seat. Gee, is this even on? Hello, everybody, please take your seat. We're going to start our regular meeting. I don't know. Okay, everybody, welcome. This is the beginning of our regular city council meeting. The time is 7 o'clock. It's March 5th. My name is Mayor Clark, and we're starting our regular meeting. And this meeting, as like the previous meeting, is being recorded and is also being live on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. At this point, everybody please rise and join in the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Burford.
Here.
Councilmember Sherlock.
Here.
Councilmember Griffin.
Here.
Councilmember Tallman.
Here.
Councilmember Charbonneau. Deputy Mayor Lacotia.
Here.
And Mayor Clark.
Here.
All here, Mayor.
Thank you, City Clerk. Are there any requests or alterations to the agendas for tonight? Okay, seeing none, the agenda is approved unanimously. We are now moving on to public comment, and to be clear for the audience, this is our normal public comment. This is not the public safety that you came here for, if you can't come for that. This is normal public comment on other topics besides public safety. So if you desire to make a public comment, please come on up to the podium, state your name and neighborhood. You'll have 3 minutes. When the buzzer goes off, we'll ask you to stop your comments and please have a seat. Remember, this is for non-public safety comments. So the first person on the list is Paul Quinn. Paul, come on up.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Paul Quinn and I live in Sammamish. I'm an individual that cares about recycling and composting and reducing what we send to the landfill. I've learned about Newcastle through public record requests, and I appreciate the help of City Manager Scott Pingle and City Clerk Jane Westman in continuing to help me obtain the needed records. Let's start with an important fact from King County survey of trash sent to the landfill, which showed that 2/3 of what is sent to the landfill can be either recycled or composted. So 2/3 of our trash is actually not trash. Tonight I'm going to walk through the first of your 3 handouts I emailed this afternoon to you. The first table, I'm going to work my way down from the top. First table reflects the tonnage disposed of by categories for 2022 and 2023, just for the city of Newcastle. The second table shows how the city's tonnage is disposed of. Most notably, 52% of what the city disposes of goes to the landfill. That amount is worse versus 2022. It's a good time to note, to maybe state the obvious, if 52% is going to the landfill, only 48% of what we dispose of is diverted to recycling or composting. The third table down shows the diversion rate. This is the rate that we divert away from the landfill. Of note, commercial and multifamily locations divert just 14% and 27%, respectively. So essentially, these two types of categories, 3/4 of what they dispose of goes to the landfill. 3/4 goes to the landfill. Table 4 reflects the missed opportunity that I noted at the start of my talk. Since 2 out of 3 pounds we put in the landfill could be recycled or composted, then last year Newcastle could have diverted an additional 2,600 tons to recycling or composting. The next section down reflects the urgency we face, as each month Newcastle sends to the landfill another 221 tons. In Table 5, typically I talk about how each category utilizes recycled containers and food scrap containers. At this time, city staff are working with me to obtain these counts, so I won't go over them this time. I'll go over the next time I talk with you. Handouts 2 and 3 provide recommendations for improving our diversion rates. I'll review these recommendations in detail at a future meeting. I believe the people of Newcastle want to live sustainably. They need the tools and they need to receive individual diversion feedback about how they're doing, like that PSC Energy report we all now receive. Feedback is a catalyst for change, and I'd like a response. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. Next on our list is Peggy Price. Peggy?
Hello, I'm Peggy Price, and I live in the Winfrey neighborhood. I wanted to hand out some things I printed out here. This is about the Lake Boren Loop. I know you already received some information on it. Gary Campen put out a really good synopsis for the Newcastle Trails. But I wanted to let you know that there was something you might see as a discrepancy. There's a bit of the Lake Boren Loop Trail that I showed in green dots right next to Coal Creek Parkway. Is next to Coal Creek part from the old swimming hole north to 76th. That would be a wonderful place to have the trail continue up so that the retired folks and people visiting them and people coming from downtown Newcastle or the east side could use that easily. It goes right up to the road, and 76th is right between the two retirement facilities. And it would be about 23 feet from the road, 23 to 43 feet, which would be a lot nicer than going along the parkway. The Esplanade people, I haven't heard a single person who said they like going along the Esplanade, and I've had quite a few people say they don't. And one of our walk-a-thon things, everybody said they don't want to do it there again. So we want to get away from the parkway. And hopefully that'll give you the information you need. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peggy. Okay, that concludes our normal, oh, I'm sorry, I see one hand raised on Zoom. Can we find out if that person is for general comment or for public safety? Jim Quigg, you're on Zoom. Are you discussing here public safety, or do you have a general public comment?
I have a general public comment, which is a shameless plug, actually. Can I do that?
You may. Go right ahead.
All right, terrific. The chief mentioned that he showed up at the events. He listed off a long list of events. I just want to applaud his effort to be involved in the community and bring his officers to all the different events that we engage in. The shameless plug is that he's going to be coming back to Lake Boren Park the day before Easter for the egg hunt again. All of you that I can see on this beautiful screen, please, you're invited to attend and shake hands personally with the residents of Newcastle. Speaking of which, thank you to all of you who are there in person. I'm embarrassed that the Planning Commission is poorly attended, but I'm very jealous of the council members who are sitting there with a full room. And Jeff Bronze, you're right, the system works. I emailed Jeff to see if this would work tonight. He said it will, and certainly enough, it's working great on this end. So thank you to all you for being there in person, and I appreciate all your community service. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, that concludes public comment. There are no ceremonial presentations. That leads us directly to council comment. And we'll start with Councilmember Burford. Do you have any comments tonight?
Last Tuesday, I had a great time attending the opening night of Newcastle Area Young Artists Exhibition, organized by Newcastle Arts Council and Newcastle Library, and supported by Friends of Newcastle Library. I was really inspired and impressed by the talents and from our young artists. Actually, they're from 6 cities, 29 artists, and they are from nearby Bellevue. In addition to our city, Newcastle, from Bellevue, Issaquah, Renton, and Sammamish. And it had a great turnout. I truly believe community engagement matters. It also contributes to our public safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Charbonneau.
No council comments. I'll have a couple regional committees though, so I'll save for that.
Okay. Councilmember Tallman.
No comment.
Councilmember Griffin.
I want to thank the people for coming out this evening. It's great to have people in the audience, and it's great to know that you care enough to come out and be a part of our meeting. Thank you for coming.
Councilmember Sherlock.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'll echo what Councilmember Griffin just said. It's great to see everybody, and I'm really enjoying hearing from our chief and police, and learning a lot about what they're doing. And I hope everyone shares what they learn here tonight with their friends and neighbors, because it's important information for everyone to know. Thanks.
Deputy Mayor LaCourtier.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, thank you to everybody who has come here, and a great thank you to our law enforcement officers who are here answering the questions. I just quickly want to mention that I recently joined the board of Hero House, and Hero House works with people recovering from mental illness. They create a social environment for them, and they help them get jobs, and help them with their resumes and interviews. And also, if anybody in the audience, or if you know anybody, if you want to learn more about Hero House, please you can feel free to connect with me directly. And quickly, next Saturday, this coming Saturday, is a volunteer fair at the Newcastle Library, 2 to 4 p.m. So if you have teenagers, or if you are interested in volunteering, in our community, so please go and check it out. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a couple of comments. Since we have a big audience, I'm going to make a plug for our Planning Commission and our comprehensive plan. That's a big project this year for our city. All cities in the region are doing this. So there's an open house coming up next week, a second one actually, on the 13th. It's at the Risden Middle School, and we encourage you as community members to attend and to give input on the future of our city, because the comp plan is a 10-year vision of our city. So it's very important. You may have been one of those people that filled out a survey when it came to your house, so if you did, thank you. But please get involved. It's your community. We want to hear your input. Okay. Any council committees met since the last meeting? Okay. How about regional committees? Councilmember Charbonneau, go ahead.
Thank you. So Mental Illness and Drug Dependency Advisory Committee did not meet this month. Regional Transit Committee did meet, and we did quite a bit. I spoke to support. We elected a vice chair, Councilmember Janice Zahn from the city of Bellevue. I spoke to support her because I think she'll advocate for a lot of similar interests that we'll have as our neighbor in Bellevue, and I'm just friends with her as well. And she's a really dedicated and hardworking council member, so I was happy to support her for that. King County Metro is continuing to update their performance measures dashboard, which is a really great tool. I would encourage people to take a look at that if you haven't seen it before. And then we were approving of a draft work plan for King County Metro, and then they have recently also updated their rapid ride prioritization plan. And then for K4C, which is King County City County Climate Collaboration, those are the 4 Cs, which is a environmental work group. I'm going to be attending the elected officials get together sometime soon, and they have an annual workshop where we talk climate policy, so I will report back on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor LaCourtier.
I attended the SCA Health meeting today. It lasted for about 25 minutes. Just quick things on that. The SCA Health has created a central data repository so that everybody can operate from the same data set. And they're also created a new Department of Comprehensive Plan where they will be creating a 6-year plan, and they will be finalizing it, and invitations will go out soon. They are facing some budget deficits. However, CDC has simplified their guidance on RSV, COVID-19, and influenza. So if anybody would like to, if you want to learn about it, you want to see what the new guidances are, feel free to go onto the CDC website and get updated there. The federal funding for COVID vaccine has declined. So March will see March is the last month, and we will see the closure of drive-through facilities. But however, if you still want COVID vaccine, you can still get it at your healthcare provider as well as the pharmacies. That's about it. Thank you.
Any other regional committees? Okay, for myself, I attended the North Mayor's meeting today. It's an online meeting. For those of you in the audience that don't know what I'm talking about necessarily, there's a whole bunch of cities in this region. The Sound Cities Association is an organization that collects everybody together and does a lot of networking. The cities are divided into a North and a South group. So I was in the North group meeting today. Not much to report. A lot of cities are dealing with the comprehensive plan, and a lot of cities are, kind of interested in knowing how the legislative session is going to end because it's finalizing this week. Some things are still hanging in the balance, some are finished, so we'll find out shortly how everything pans out. Moving on to the city manager report. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council, and good evening, everyone that's here. Thank you for coming. I'll be brief. I don't mean to correct the mayor, but the open house is at Hazelwood Elementary School, not at Riston Middle School, just so everybody's aware. I do want to get a head count from the council for who plans on attending the audit exit conference on Thursday. It's Thursday at 1:30. We just need to make sure we know if we need to notice it or not. So if more than 3 of you are going, then we're going to notice it. If just 3 of you are going, we don't need to notice it. Okay. Oh, because Councilmember Tallman, you will not be there, correct? Okay. Thank you. So I have Councilmember Lacotia, or I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor Lacotia, Councilmember Griffin, and Councilmember. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Do you have to notice if there's more than 3 of us going to the open house at Hazelwood? Because I do plan on going to that.
Yeah, it depends on if you're...
What hat I'm wearing?
I don't think, if you plan on... it's just an open house. I don't think that we have an issue with noticing that. It'll already be a noticed public meeting. The only other thing I have is I wanted to give a shout out to our events and rec coordinator, Amy George. We haven't been archiving our newsletters on the website since about 2020, and she got that updated to current, and so I just wanted to give her a shout out on that. That's all I got.
Thank you, City Manager. Moving on to the consent agenda, any desired changes or alterations to the consent agenda? Seeing none, show the consent agenda approved as written without objection. Okay, we have no public hearings. We have no unfinished business. Now we are returning, and thank you for your patience, everybody. We are returning to the discussion of public safety. So we left off before the break with taking any public comment. So if there's somebody who is still, and I know there was one person waiting to make a comment, if there's a person in the hallway who would like to make a comment, somebody grab him. Yeah, we'll get back to the online in a second. Okay, come on up for the public safety comments.
That's my thing. As you know me probably from
I
the
figured
past.
he would suck you into the hallway.
So, yeah, and that we have the highest recycling contracts, I think, that waste management deals with the city of Newcastle. Anyways, I wanted to talk to you about something else. So good evening, council and everybody. I don't know if you're very familiar with House
State your
Bill.
name, please.
My name is Philip Schmidt-Potman. I represent the Vineyards Homeowner Association.
Thanks, Phil.
And I also represent a group of HOAs that have connected across the state. And we're pretty much in a position of House Bill 1110, which didn't come up this year, but House Bill 1054 did pass, which is a huge issue for us because, and I was trying to talk to the chief a bit about this, if he knew about it, he said not yet. House Bill 1054 basically means if you're living, let's say, for density reasons, if you live in a homeowners association, for example, you're now able, a homeowner that might not even live in this country is able to rent out each room in the house to somebody else, which means you're going to have 4 individual people. You don't know who they work, who they deal with, who they hang out with, what do they do on anything. And my question on the safety part was, so what's going to happen now on the, if we have this bill is going to pass, it passed House, it has passed Senate, just waiting for the signature from the governor now, which means that this could be translated within 2-3 months, which means a homeowner now can say, hey, I want to rent out my place. I don't care who they are. I don't know these people, but I just want to make money. And that means instead of having one homeowner, you're going to have 4 people living in a house that really don't have background checks or anything like this, which is going to impose a huge risk to the remaining HOA. So my thought was, okay, if that's now spreading out and is able to do this, that means that all of a sudden, the police is going to have a lot more activity going on, not just in apartment complexes, but who knows what's coming in there. It's a huge safety issue that the association has been discussing as one of the reasons. And I just want to bring this up to the attention of the council so you're aware of that. And, which is similar to House Bill 1110, but because it's not on the agenda right now, we'll talk about this another time. But so I want to bring out House Bill 1054, so for your information.
Thank you, Philip.
Thanks.
As a follow-up to what Philip said, if I could ask either, and I'm putting you on the spot, either the city manager or our senior planner, when a person wants to rent their house out, don't they have to get permitted from the city? Is that true?
It depends. So, you hear this thing? Okay. It depends on what the circumstances are. If they're looking at doing what we call a short-term rental or something under 30 days, that's actually not permitted within the city to rent out an entire home. And I'll have to see how that correlates with 1054. But if they're just renting out a room, they don't need to get permission from the city.
Go ahead.
I have a follow-up question to that then. In some cases, we're finding that the HOAs, CCNRs trump the state direction on some things. Can the HOA trump this situation?
Yeah, I was actually curious about the same thing, and I'll need to look into that. This hasn't been one that's been brought up in a lot of the planning meetings, so I'll take a look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Philip.
I could give you some more feedback on this because we've been really in tune with this one. It actually does override CCNRs from HOAs. So, and it has nothing to do with short-term rentals and housing anymore either. But it's actually, if I'm a homeowner, I move into another country and I want to rent out my house to whoever I want to, I can do that now based on this legislation. So that's the overriding power which we've been opposing. We're probably a coalition of about 12 HOAs right now and growing. And I know the Association of Realtors is also opposing this, but it looks like it's moving forward. So it's going to cause us, we believe, a serious issue. Also will have an impact on existing CCNRs because it will change the parking arrangements. It will change a whole bunch of things that will override this. So, and that's something that we need to be aware of. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Yeah, go ahead, Councilmember Charbonneau.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to speak. I would like to push back on the notion that people that are renters living here leads to more crime. I don't think that's a fair assumption. I'd like to also push back on the notion that all the owners that of these said houses might be from other countries. I don't think we have any data to show where they're from. I know it does occur. I've been a short-term renter myself. When I was in college and I had an internship in Washington, D.C., I was a short-term renter at a house because I needed somewhere to be for the summer and not just part-time. I have a friend who's a short-term renter who I went to high school with, and now she teaches at Newport High School herself. I'm just not comfortable positing the notion that, yes, there will be more cars parked. I think that's a fair thing to call out. We want to make sure we're not exposing things in cars. We want to be aware about that auto safety. I'm not comfortable with just accepting the notion that that's going to lead to more crime in our city. I think, as we heard, the majority of our crime comes from people that are passing through our city, and I'm not comfortable positing that. I'm willing to have a conversation with you about that, but I'm not comfortable positing that as a group. So I'd just like to call that out. But thank you for coming to talk.
Currently, you don't need background checks. So, I mean, some people do it, some people don't do this. But we have had issues in our neighborhood because of that. So just, and I'm not saying it's a general thing that it causes that, because, you know, many of us, when we are students, were doing things like that, of course. But at the same time, you cannot rule that out if somebody's not even living in the country and just want to make money. And when I first lived in my HOA, we had a home that was like an Amway concept, and it caused a lot of issues in the area, so a lot, until they moved out. So just a couple of feedbacks on this one. I understand your notion against it, but I think we really need to keep that in perspective. So thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
Appreciate it.
Councilmember Tallman?
Yeah, so I would like to support the speaker as this is a valid concern and something that we should at least be aware of. This meeting is about public safety and about awareness. I live across the street from a large home that was renting by rooms, and there was a lot of drug activity. They actually had to change out the rooms and do some substantial work on the home to make it safe to live in again. So while these laws change, it is important for us to be at least aware of these situations so that we can control them as they arise.
Do I have another member, anybody from the public? Go ahead.
Thanks, Kelly Clark, Hazelwood. My neighbor Kevin Duffy wanted me to ask police about the permitting. If people are walking around and they're selling something, what's the, I hope I'm asking this right, Kevin, the permitting, do they have to have a badge or something on? Because we recently had people coming around to our home, and instead of coming up to the door, they're just leaving leaflets and whatnot on the door, and we can't see anything that they've got on, so they're not really coming up to the door. But is the permitting still have to be, they still have to go to City Hall to get a permit and to?
Yes, but I'm not sure if they have a badge.
City manager, would that be your question for you, I think?
I'm going to ask Aaron to help me out. I don't know if they have to have badges, but they do have to be permitted.
So like, the answer to the question is yes, a person that's soliciting in the neighborhoods must be permitted and must come to City Hall and get a permit and permission to do that. And if they don't, ask them and challenge them and find out what they're doing and remind them, and maybe they didn't know, but we can, get them straight pointed in the right direction.
Kevin, is that good? Okay, great. And while I'm up here, during our nightly walks, we walk nightly patrol through Olympus just about every night. And in the last 3 months, we have probably hit 14 homes, 14, 15, I think, with garage doors that have been open. And we go and knock on the doors and say, hi, I'm your neighbor. We live in Hazelwood, but they're shocked to know that their garage doors are open. So just a reminder that when you go into the house, just open the door one more time, make sure the garage door, just say, when I leave the house, I go garage door down. And it makes me look garage door down, just as a reminder. So that's a lot of garage doors. So, and granted, it was nearing Christmas and whatnot, but just my thought.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
I will just emphasize, please ask them for their license, for their permit, if they're coming around and you question it.
Okay, let's get to our Zoom caller who has had a hand up for quite some time. So go ahead, Tam Kameen, please.
Okay, I am Tam Kameen, and I live in Olympus. I wanted to address two items. The first one is I appreciate the example that the mayor gave on starting with 26 accidents and moving down to 0. And I think we can use data the same way. I'm a strong proponent of measuring something when you want to improve it. So I would recommend when we look at the police reports, they're at pretty high levels. And I think it sounds like you're going to create a committee for looking at the crime in the city. And I would recommend itemizing a couple of items where we have specific numbers. In particular, I have no idea what we're seeing in terms of retail theft, things like that. That would be a good one to include on some metrics that we can track over time and see some improvement. And the second thing I wanted to say was I was very interested in Councilmember Tolman's comment of a person who said that they did not feel safe having their daughter walk through the Safeway parking lot. And I know that for myself, when I heard that there was an armed person doing a carjacking in the Safeway parking lot, to me that sounds like something very dangerous, and you want to say, okay, what do I need to do to prevent this or to make sure it doesn't happen to me? And I would be very interested in hearing either at this point in time or maybe putting something together by the chief on what should we as citizens be doing to prevent something like a carjacking. We have 2 huge parking lots between Safeway and QFC, and I'd like to know what kinds of things we should be aware of or we should be doing so that we can prevent something like this from happening to each of us.
Thank you, Tam. Chief, could you want to come up and address those questions, please?
Yeah, as far as carjackings, you need to be aware of your surroundings and who's following you. The police can't be there 24/7. We got one officer. You got more officers you get more security guards at the shopping mall than you do in the city. So you need to take precautions by walking and just being aware of where you park too. Park where it's well lit. And if that means you got to walk a little farther, park there. As far as the car too is, I would just make sure all your valuables is hidden. But try just be aware of your surroundings. As far as carjackings, we had that one in Safeway parking lot. I think that was the only one that we had, and that was the one I was referring to that we had the person in custody. And what was the other question that you had?
Well, she was talking about data and metrics.
Crime data. Doctor's gonna explain that one.
Evening, ma'am. So the King County Crime Analysis Unit does have a public-facing dashboard that everyone is allowed to go on and look on. So if you go to your King County local sheriff's office website and navigate towards the Crime Analysis Unit, there should be a link for the public-facing dashboard, and you can look at all the offenses that have occurred within your area and generally kind of like the block area as to where they are occurring.
Okay.
And I believe we have a link on the Newcastle page also.
Okay, thank you. Chief, while you're here, I have a question, then I'll ask you. So, and you and I have talked about this in our one-on-one conversations, but could you briefly address the conflict we see where the community will see a social media post that might sound really horrible, and where initial reaction is, that's just awful. How could that possibly happen? But sometimes, and not always, but sometimes the reality is quite different. So could you address, for lack of a better term, crime via social media? Like, what is your thoughts on that?
don't believe every thing people post, because it can be fake news. Recently, we had one, I guess it was an incident that happened at Safeway, and it wasn't entirely true what the initial person posted, and it was reposted on there. What the person posted on social media wasn't what was reported to the police as far as injuries and all that. And the photo that was posted through our investigation, it was not the actual suspects that did that. So don't believe everything that's on social media.
So to follow up on that, and obviously we do not want to discourage the use of social media. People have emotions and passions around crime. The police cannot often respond to your post because there's an investigation underway or there's facts that they can't divulge. So it may seem like nothing's happening, you know, and so we encourage you, like at the beginning, and everybody's kind of mentioned it, it's come up here, is report everything, right? If there's a problem with our dispatcher, the chief is working on that because the officers will respond, gather information, be prepared to testify or be a witness or how that goes. But it's really important that we do have all the pieces in place. We talked about it earlier. You know, the police are willing to respond. You know, you take information. The prosecutor and the judge are all in. They're willing to go. So, but be aware of the social media part. I wanted to emphasize that you know, the police are not always, they can't just come right on and say this is really what's going on because they have a case going on. So it's not necessarily, you're going to see a second side to that, Chief.
And a lot of that has to be vetted by our detective too. So we're not gonna just post something. So he usually vets it out and decides what get posted or when it get posted. So some of these property crimes, if it's on the weekend, we're not gonna post it right away because I'm not gonna pay him overtime to do that on the weekends. So, so it has to wait, so.
Okay. Councilmember Thomas?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, to kind of wrap it up. Please allow the process to work without jumping to conclusions or speculation. It's vitally important to the community's morale and the morale of our police officers. Thank you.
And one last thing, I wanted to call up our traffic officer so he can accurately answer the question on traffic enforcement on Coal Creek also.
Please.
Thank you, Chief. Thanks, Mayor Clark. Matt Treadway, MPO here in Newcastle for the past 3.5 years. So just so everyone's aware, former Chief Hauk, when he was here, my position that I have as a traffic enforcement officer, the specific role that I have, that was an addition when he was here because the concerns that he heard from the community, from the council, was that traffic enforcement and traffic safety was an important concern to everyone in the city. So he added my position. I've been doing that, like I said, for about 3.5 years. All of our deputies who work in the city do traffic enforcement. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm doing everything, but that's my primary role. So there's 3 areas to curb or to affect change when it comes to traffic and traffic safety. Education, enforcement, and engineering. So the education is we regularly post things on social media about traffic safety. We did things around the Super Bowl and encouraging people to have a designated driver in times like that, around the holidays and whatnot. The chief and I have meetings every quarter with Director Bronze and some of the other city staff where we talk about potential engineering things that the city may be able to do, different signage or other speed limit changes, speed calming devices that the city may be able to put into place. So we work collaboratively with the city to address traffic safety concerns. As far as the enforcement aspect of it, which is the police department's main role, is, as the chief said in his stats last year, we issued, I believe, just almost 900 tickets in the city. So just a little breakdown of that. Coal Creek Parkway, so last year, 2023, 329 of those almost 900 tickets were on Coal Creek Parkway. 177 were on 116th Avenue. I'd say those are probably the main two thoroughfares in the city and the main areas in the city that I get complaints. I get complaints in multiple different ways. We use C-Click Fix in the city where individuals, community members can report concerns, traffic or otherwise, and I get those emails, I address those. If he gets emails, and then just out interacting with the community. So I base my enforcement based on complaints and information that I get from the community. I also base it on where collisions are occurring. That's how I see my role, is to try to reduce the number of collisions that are happening in the city. I go to meetings, again, every other month, regional meetings with King County Target Zero, which is in collaboration with Washington State in reducing the number of traffic-related injuries and fatalities. On that note, you'd have to tell me, because it was when you were a deputy here, we haven't had a fatality accident in the city in 6, 7, 8 years.
Yeah, I think we had one.
Yeah.
Right before I left. That was the last one that I know of, going up all the way up on the top.
Yep. So we haven't had a fatality in the city in quite some time. The injury accidents that he had on his stat sheets, that doesn't necessarily mean somebody broke an arm, broke a leg, had a concussion. That could mean I get there and say, "Are you hurt?" And they say, "Oh yeah, my chest hurts from the seatbelt." So we had the fire department come check him out. Or, you know, the airbag came out and maybe they have a bloody nose or something like that. So it's not necessarily a quote unquote serious or major life altering type of injury that they've sustained. So kind of to wrap all that up is we as a whole, we are out there. We take traffic safety very seriously. We work with the city to try to come up with creative ways to address issues. The chief put up numbers. There's a lot of grants that I apply for to get equipment free, basically, at no cost. It doesn't come out of the police budget. It's through grants, both equipment-wise and overtime. So I work my core hours and days of the week. And then, as the chief said, I'll come in early in the morning, stay late at night, and a lot of that generally is grant covered. So again, it's completely free to the city. It's all covered by a traffic safety grant. So basically all that to say is it is an important issue. Newcastle, in my opinion, in the 3.5 years I've been here, working here, is a safe city. Traffic safety is one of the major concerns that I've heard about during my time here and continue to hear about. And it is being addressed, and it'll continue to be addressed. And I guess the last thing I'll say is, you know, everybody, when you're at home or you're at the grocery store or you're driving around, just because you don't see a police officer driving through the Safeway parking lot, or you don't see somebody getting pulled over for a traffic violation, doesn't mean that it's not happening. And I think that's clear with the 900 tickets. That's 900 tickets. That doesn't include any warnings that were given. So additional traffic stops on top of that. So we are out. We are being proactive. We hear what all of you are saying. We hear what the council the information we get. And I think that during the time that I've been here in the city, Chief Hauk and Chief Kajiro have done a great job to look for new, innovative ways to reduce that crime and traffic and otherwise, and to continue to keep the city safe and on the right path.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
At this point, are there any additional people who want to comment? I see a hand. Please come on up. Yeah, okay.
I'm Louisa Gass from Meadowview Park. I have a related question to traffic safety. There were figures earlier shared on kind of the number of accidents. Looks like that's increased in the city. I would love to know if there's a little bit more data on any hot spots where those accidents are happening, or just particular areas in the city that we should just keep an eye out for.
Yeah, so all of our accidents, when I or any of our other officers in the city respond to accidents, there's certain things that are tracked. While speeding is a concern, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but the primary cause of accidents in the city, based on what I've seen and been to, is distracted driving. So that's people on their phones or people not paying attention. Speed exacerbates, can make the accident worse, but I wouldn't necessarily say that speed is the cause of the accident. A good portion of our accidents are stop and go traffic, rush hour traffic on Coal Creek, and people are just on their phone, and it's just that 5 mile an hour bumper to bumper rear ender collision. Going back to when I talked about, I try to tailor kind of my enforcement to where our accidents are occurring. We had 35 accidents on Coal Creek Parkway last year, compared to 3 on 116th Avenue. And so again, we do get some like people running stop signs up by Newcastle Way and Golf Club Road. That's a common place where people blow that stop sign sometimes, but the majority of accidents are occurring on Coal Creek, and that's just based on the volume of cars that are on Coal Creek Parkway. And my experience in responding to those is the majority are caused by distracted driving. And to that point, we have Director Bronze and I and some of the other city staff have King County, part of that King County Target Zero is they're working on a pilot program with some kind of new kind of feedback signs. So right, they have speed feedback signs where it tells you your speed, it flashes. So there's some new feedback signs that we're looking into that may be a possibility as a pilot program that address distracted driving. So that is still in the works, but like I said, we'll welcome any information. If you have any ideas, then by all means, you can go on the website and send the chief an email, send us an email, or put something online, or flag us down when we're driving down the road, because like was brought up earlier, is there's only 10 of us in the city, and he's at a desk and he's at a desk most of the time doing their job, right, as the chief and as the detective. So now we're down to 8, so we can only be so many places at any given time. So we definitely invite that information from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questioners? Go ahead.
My name is Kim Lane. I live on 125th across from Don Eagle Park. So I just wanted to say that I was going to flag you guys down. But I just have a general comment that I have a window that faces the park, And during the summer, a lot of times at night, there's some kind of odd activity out there. Very nice cars, like Cadillac Escalades, which I don't think belong to like teenagers. And other cars sitting there idling for 40, 50 minutes at a time. And activity going on like at 1 or 30 or 2. And so, I mean, if you guys are kind of patrolling the area and you want to swing by, you might see something there. I have called in the past about screaming matches at the park and was told that the city does not patrol or go out to look at these things. This was a non-emergency number, just to let you know. But that's basically my comment, is just to let you guys know that. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I have an online comment. Can we get the online commenter, please?
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me okay, Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Jim.
I guess I have a question for the chief around lighting. Kind of dovetails off the comment that was just made about the parks. In our street, we hit COVID, so we had a ton of extra money for parties that we couldn't spend on parties. So we spent it on motion sensor lights. Chief, are those helpful? What kind of lighting really works to scare away the bad guys? Seems like they're out at night. So how would you recommend we do that? And then also maybe the Director Fitzgibbons or Director Braun, is there a way that we as a city can help the neighborhoods that are trying to deter the bad guys with lighting and such? But Chief, first to you, what kind of lighting works best, sir?
So first of all, based on CEPTEP, Crime Prevention to Environmental Design, what we're thought is lighting is the best preventive measure for crime. So I would recommend lighting up your house. Instead of having motion detectors, especially in the front, keep the lights on all night. Get LED lights, nice bright ones, and light up the front. I have my front of my house, the side of my house on all night long. I encourage my neighbors to do that, so the neighbors right around me got their lights on all the time. The backyard, you can have it on motion, but I would recommend getting nice bright LED lights. Does that answer your question?
Thanks, Chief.
Did that answer the question for Jim Quigg?
That was great. Yeah, the chief's answer was helpful. It tells me that motion sensors aren't as effective as having the place lit up all the time. And I guess my question would be to Jeff or Aaron, is there a way for you to help me do this? We're spending our party dollars on lighting. Is there a way for the city to kick in a few bucks with lighting around the city?
I would guess I would rephrase that and ask it as, what is our process about installing lighting in communities? Is it, I mean, obviously we have new developments, they're required to install lighting, but what about existing communities? Do we have, you know, an ongoing lighting program? How would that work? Either one of you.
I don't have a direct answer for that, just anecdotal is from my own neighborhood. I've actually seen PSE going out and adding additional lights, so I think that would have to be something that we determine through PSE. Something maybe that could also be determined through CEPTED partnerships.
This is Jeff Bronze, Public Works Director. Just adding to that question, this is pretty much, I believe it's would be on private property or personal property where the lighting is important, not on the streets. The area where the city could make an impact would potentially be in public areas like the parks, but I don't see the street lighting as being a major factor.
Do we have any other public commenters? Okay, I seeing none. I'm going to ask Councilmember Tallman to discuss our, pardon me. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed the hand. Please come on up.
Can I talk from here?
I think, sure, go right ahead.
I don't know if it's just me, but I have hacked tell us anything at all about them? Could I find out what they're for and how they work?
So for the record, the question is, what are the blue lights in the parking lots and what happens when the lights come on? Chief?
So that little trailer with the pole with the blue flashing lights, that's surveillance cameras. That has nothing to do with the police. I believe they have one in QFC. I think that's owned or leased by QFC. So if there's a crime that happens in that parking lot, we have to go and contact QFC security to access that camera, which we have for the burglary that happened at Tapatio, right? Yeah, so we have access to it, but that's what that is. That's why you see it all over at construction sites and other shopping centers. That's private. They decide to put that up.
And just one other comment. I think one of the worst things that has happened in this state is when they quit checking cars to see if the lights are working, the tail lights are working, and our emission is working. And that's nothing that has to do with you. But it is a safety issue.
Well, I used to live in Hawaii and they had a safety check every year, so,
I know.
and a special
Most
sticker
states
on
I've
there.
lived in have.
So, yeah.
Okay, Councilmember Tallman, another question, okay. Please come on up, yeah.
So, I'm curious, do you give citation to drivers who are using their mobile phone or eating, what you call distraction?
The answer is yes.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes.
And how much, what is the percentage out of the tickets? Because I do see a lot of people do that. Yeah. Thank you.
Our traffic officer will answer
That might take a minute.
Okay, well, was looking that up, and the question was, do we charge distracted driving and what percentage? And so Officer Treadway is looking that up. Councilmember Tallman, please give us a brief on the ad hoc committee, please.
Okay, thank you. Just really quickly, Judge Gregory asked me to make this announcement just for people that aren't aware that all Mercer Island and Newcastle court proceedings are held right here in these chambers. And he invites the public to come and watch the proceedings. And if you have any questions, he would personally address them after the proceedings. So it's a really good exercise. Last week he had a bunch of homeschool kids in, and afterwards he sat there and answered a whole bunch of questions by them, and he said they were really good questions. Newcastle Court is held right here in this chamber on the second Monday of every month at 9 a.m. Mercer Island Court is held every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. every single week. So just a public announcement for the judge. Moving on now to the ad hoc committee, which is where we believe we will help make a difference in Newcastle. We would like to have residents from various neighborhoods and businesses sign up to participate on the ad hoc committee, which will advise and work closely with the city council, the staff, and the police department through community feedback, input, and methods for resolving public safety concerns. In turn, we will report back to the community with meaningful progress, results, and updates. We need people who are passionate about public safety and the safety of their families, neighborhoods, and even specific areas of public safety to sign up. This is not just about areas of the community, but also areas of well-being, like personal safety, self-defense, and property safety, for example. The plan is to focus on crime prevention, but this broader conversation may help us achieve just that in a positive, more sustainable way. This committee can be a valuable resource for the residents who have questions or concerns about public safety. Again, we will provide follow-up communications. Over here on the table, there's a sheet here for Public Safety Ad Hoc Committee. Does everybody have a copy of it? Because I'd like to go over it really quickly to discuss what this is, how we're going to operate, and then you can be more informed and determine if and how and when you would like to get involved, which will take, hopefully you're signing up tonight, but if not, We would like to leave that open until about next Wednesday for people to sign up for this ad hoc committee. So just a breakdown of the vision. This is going to cover all areas of Newcastle. So the streets, apartment condos, neighborhoods, schools, businesses, churches, temples, mosques, daycare facilities, parks, public buildings, recreation centers, public gatherings and events, and also personal safety. The nature of the work is results-oriented and will be a positive experience for everybody involved. The communications will be wide open and very enlightening for all of us participating, and the committee will also be fully transparent with city leadership and with the residents. The selection criteria, we have some criteria, but the level of interest in your resolve and including special interests and if you have any special experience in security or something like that, then we would like to talk to you. If you're interested in participating, we would like to talk to you, even if you don't feel like you have any special skill sets. Ad hoc committee selection would be about 5 to 7 individuals. Mayor Clark and I will meet with people individually, and then we will assign seats to that committee. I will lead the committee and create an environment for open discussion, individual empowerment, and opportunities for members to take leadership roles. The committee will create awareness, provide representation of focus areas, as well as guidance for safety and security everywhere. Guided discussion will lead to a broader sense of awareness, development of ideas, and direction for the city. We will meet about once a month, and we will make recommendations to the city council and to law enforcement. We are not under pressure to bring proposals immediately. We will bring proposals when they're fully developed, and we've had lots of discussions internally before we bring them and start asking for further discussion from the council and from city leadership. We even have success metrics. After conversations with the prosecutor and with the judge, a good place to start would be increased number of crimes reported. We really need the community to report crimes when you see crimes, and that will help us resolve some of the issues and concerns that we have in the community. Increased number of cases submitted to the prosecutor and filed with the court. Again, we need to have witnesses that have good information so that they can be fully developed and then proceed to the court proceedings. So does anyone have any questions about the ad hoc committee and how we're going to operate and how we can work together with the community? This is about cooperation and collaboration with the city, with the police department, and with the community on making a difference. This sheet has my contact information on the bottom. Please call me or send me an email, and I'd be happy to talk to any individual and address any concerns you have and encourage you to participate. Thank you.
Just a further quick comment on the ad hoc committee. So I mentioned at the beginning, the very beginning at 6 o'clock that, we want to find out, how to make our city world class, right? So what are we missing, right? What can we do better, right? So why not, there's no better way than to get the people involved, the stakeholders, the community, and ask them, what do you think? And what are your ideas? Think outside the box. So this committee, we really encourage you, if you're interested, please sign up, right? We would like to have community input so we can kind of tie a ribbon around public safety. We got the police who are willing to go after crime. We got a prosecutor who wants to prosecute. We got the judge who wants to sentence them. Let's get it all together and make our community even safer than it is now, right? So everybody feels safe in our community. So there's another sheet that describes what an ad hoc committee is and why it's important. So I would emphasize, just on top of what Councilmember Tallman said, we really, really, really want the community to be involved some more and help us out. Okay? Do you have another comment?
Just really quickly, I've had some communications from leaders in neighborhoods who do not have a block watch program. And so there's another sheet over there. If you'd like to have additional information, please sign up, and then we can have the chief or somebody reach out to you, help you with that program.
At this point, we've kind of concluded the heart of our meeting. So I would ask each and every council member if you'd like to make any comments. So if you'd like to, council members, any comments, please raise your hand. Anything you'd like to add? Okay. Go ahead, Councilmember Charbonneau.
Yeah, I just think real quick. So I think I wanted to highlight again, I think last year, I think it might have been December or late November, we did vote to add an additional police officer to our budget. I think one thing that I constantly say as a coach with high schoolers is the principle of like, you know, we don't worry about the uncontrollables. We can't control everything, but we can control how we respond. You know, if you think you had a takedown or something and the ref says you didn't, are you going to be upset about it, or are you going to just go back and stay focused? So I think, to me, I'm proud of how we responded, and keeping in mind that the response is an evolving process and it's an evolving community conversation. I think there's a lot of credit due to the chief for responding in a way of going and ingraining himself in the community and engaging with the community, because I think people are more likely to be a witness. I think people are more likely to feel safe to report something when they feel connected to that community and taking the time out of their nights tonight to come and have a conversation with us. I think, you know, I think we talked about there was a shooting last year that I know everyone heard about, right? It's folks that were outside our city that happened to pull over and stop in the library parking lot, right? So we can't control the fact that control we control how we respond to that. And I'm really proud how our officers responded to that, and I appreciate folks coming out to engage, as that, at least the framework I have for it is that response is evolving, and develop how we sort of respond to these things. We can't control crime in the region per se, but we can control how we respond to it locally. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. So to wrap up this, please go right ahead, Councilor Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just also want to thank our police. I think it was really awesome to see that list of all the things that Chief Kajihiro and his team have put into place in the last couple of years. And I'm really proud to talk to other people about our police department and all the good work that they're doing, and especially to piggyback off Councilmember Charbonneau, the community engagement work is so important because it does bring people in a way that is going to bring those measures of success that Councilmember Tallman was talking about, of getting people feeling comfortable to call in when something happens. And that's what we want to see. And Chief said it a few times, I think, if it's not reported, they don't know how to fix the problem. So I encourage everyone to reach out to Chief Kaji and all of the police officers. You see them on around, say hi. They're very nice people, and they want to get to know our community members. And Sundays with the Cop is a great idea. So thank you, all of you, for all that you're doing for our community. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Burford, go ahead.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming, and especially thank you for our police department and chief and all the staff members. And I appreciate all you do. And personally, I really had a really good connection with our police chief and officers when my car was hit by just like the person who ran the red light. Personally, I really feel our police chief, down to earth, really truly extremely responded promptly, and also showed his great care to our community and resident member. And I just want to also emphasize public engagement matters. When we engage our residents, we provide events, we have a face-to-face communication. And so they don't have a fear or barrier to call. They don't hesitate to call, to report. Also, we also need to make sure we have residents who do not speak English. They have a language barrier. They don't know how to report. So I would like to emphasize we need to have the translations and translators and interpreters in place, and see how we can help all the residents in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, to wrap this up, this segment, again, thank you everybody for coming, to showing an interest in public safety, right? We do feel it is our highest responsibility to you as a community, but we have to work together as a team to make it even better than it is, right? I want to thank the officers for coming, for on their night off or their time off. Thank all of you for coming and spending time here and listening to us. Please sign up for one of these committees. We would love to talk to you, right? And get your input and have you be involved. There's a neighborhood watch, Steve mentioned that. So if you need more information, reach out to us after this meeting. We all have email addresses. The chief has an email address, city manager. However you want to feel comfortable getting in touch with us. We're open to talking and discussing public safety. Really, really important. Thank you. So to conclude our overall meeting now, we are now concluded with general business. We have an additional public comment period. This is for non-public safety issues. City clerk, do we have anybody signed up? No, okay. Okay, the additional public comment period is closed. We are now moving on to our planning calendar, which is our last order of business. Thank you. And city manager, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things to make sure the council's aware of for our March 19th meeting and April 2nd meetings. We'll have a couple of things as far as presentations. We'll have our 2023 year-end financial report. We'll also have a presentation from Director Bronze on 116th Avenue traffic calming. And then our finance committee wanted to bring their recommendations on ARPA to that city council meeting for the full council's discussion. And so my main question, what we have on the planning calendar now is potentially a study session for that ARPA discussion. What my question for the council is, do you think you need a study session for that, or can we put that on the regular meeting?
I would say regular meeting, but I'd like to hear what everybody else has to say. Any comments, just speak up.
I guess I welcome the study session, but if there's room for it on the regular agenda, it doesn't really matter where it's placed as long as we have time to talk it through.
Yeah, there'll be a discussion for sure. He's just asking where to put it. I think
Right.
there's time in the regular meeting.
I think there will be. I just want to.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of time. We certainly will discuss it, but let's go for the regular.
We'll make it a discussion item in general business.
Correct.
Like we did tonight for public safety.
Absolutely.
And for the April 2nd meeting, the main thing I wanted to pull out of that meeting is we are planning a retreat style study session for that meeting. Staff will have specific things that we are asking council for feedback on or direction on, but I also want to make sure that council, if there's specific topics or items or things that you think need attention, please let us know so that we can prepare for those for that study session. And then we've also asked our state lobbyist Holly Sanabria to attend the regular meeting that evening to give us a end of session legislative report. That's all I got.
Go ahead, Councilor Shiro.
Thanks. What time are you thinking for the extended retreat style discussion?
So it really depends on council. I mean, at least an hour. Maybe we can go earlier depending on how many topics we think we're going to want to address. I don't know if we need to make that call just yet. I want to make sure we have time to get feedback, and if there's topics on top of what staff has, then great. That's really up to the council. I want to make sure we have enough time to get some information to the council and get feedback and direction.
I think by the next meeting, we'll have an idea of what the topics are, and we can, let's at least tentatively say 6, but we can adjust that, right? I don't think we would need a lot of time on the topics, perhaps. Okay. Any other questions for the city manager? Okay, seeing no questions, we are now concluded. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.